and I welcome the opportunity to speak on this motion. Despite the sequencing of this debate, I think it is fair to say that we do share the general aim, which is to seek greater clarity on the final arrangements that businesses in Northern Ireland will have to grapple with once the implementation period ends. There is no doubt that there is a greater need for urgent clarity on the nature of new trading arrangements, but the priority should always be getting the right deal for Northern Ireland. I listened this morning to some businesses who were on the radio speaking from the border areas. They were very clear in terms of their priority in ensuring that there should be no border down the Irish Sea, and that the UK internal market should first and foremost be the priority. And you can see why that's the case, whilst it might be lost on some members in this chamber. It is important to note, as my colleague Mr Salford had raised, GB accounts for 52.7% of Northern Ireland's external sales. Northern Ireland food and drink sales to GB valued at over 2.3 billion. 65% of Northern Ireland's purchases from GB were worth 13.3 billion. So you can see why protecting the UK internal market should first and foremost be our priority. I will indeed.
Got there before you. I appreciate the member for giving way. In his remarks introducing the amendment, Mr O'Toole referred to ideological obsessions. Now, I would never accuse Mr O'Toole of being a Euro-fanatic ideological obsessive. I would never accuse him of that. But would the member agree that it would be indeed the manifestation of ideological obsessiveness? Indeed, it would be cutting off your nose to spite your face, to cut businesses from Northern Ireland off from their biggest market out of an act of fidelity to Brussels.
Member has an extra minute.
Well, I would absolutely agree with that point, and I would urge members, whilst they may claim to be listening to businesses, to actually go out and speak to those businesses, speak to the lobby groups, absolutely, but speak directly to the businesses, as we have been doing. You will see that there is real concern about some of the proposals that have been made. It is also important to note, just in reference to the motion, that responsibility to provide this clarity doesn't ultimately rest with the Department for the Economy, but it does rest with the UK Government, who are negotiating on behalf of us all here in the United Kingdom. Getting the right deal should be the priority, but communication, if we're to be honest, with businesses has been poor, and lessons must be learned going forward. That said, many of the parties currently berating the current risk to local businesses from a lack of clarity are the very people who jumped over backwards to promote the benefit of the protocol in the first place. While some have belatedly realised the dangers of trade barriers between Northern Ireland and GB and vice versa, the DUP has been consistent in our opposition to that. Because the facts are that the only proposal that we actually agreed to was actually a safeguard mechanism for Northern Ireland here in the Northern Ireland Assembly, which would have given us the final say on whether or not Northern Ireland would have any regulatory difference with the rest of the United Kingdom. And I want to move on, because bearing in mind I have just a few minutes left. There are, in our opinion, the motion does wrongly focus on education and training opportunities for local businesses as we prepare for the end of the implementation period. Whilst yes, there's room for this, in reality there are a plethora of other substantive concerns that need to be addressed holistically by the UK Government if Northern Ireland's unique and characteristic economic interests are to be protected moving forward. These include the absence of a timetable for legislating for unfettered access between Northern Ireland and GB, as outlined in the New Decade New Approach, the reluctance of some UK ministers to incorporate safeguards and standards relating to food imports within the Agricultural Bill, the impact of closing existing routes to lower skilled labour for key industries in Northern Ireland, such as the agri-food, manufacturing and hospitality, and of course, and importantly, the impact of alignment with the EU rather than UK state aid and farm support levels on inward investment and competitiveness in Northern Ireland. So to place all eggs in one basket and force the Economy Minister to simply focus on ploughing money into training for local businesses without knowing the eventual outcome of the talks would actually be very much counterproductive. Instead of reverting to a blame game, we need to look at these challenges in a rounded fashion in order to protect local interests. We note the speculation that the Government will pursue fallback measures under the Internal Market Bill to protect Northern Ireland's interests should a deal not be agreed that mitigates the threat of the Northern Ireland Protocol. We will carefully look at these and the finer details and the clauses relating to this, and we'll study them carefully. So, in terms of the motion, we will, because we support the general aim of it, we will support the motion and we will be supporting the amendment as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.